Hello everyone, and welcome to Series September! Series September is going to be a series of Masters of Literature videos that focus on one series throughout the month of September. But sadly, that means there won't be a Storytime Saturday this month. Sorry about that. Anyways, the series I'm going to be looking at this month is Shannon Hale's Books of Bayern. Normally I'll be starting the series September reviewing the first book in the series, but since I already reviewed the first book in the series from my 100 subscriber special, I'll be starting this series September off with the second book of the series, Enna Burning. Enna Burning is of course about the best character, Enna, Ani's best friend from the Goose Girl. The story takes place 2 years after the events of the Goose Girl. After the events of the Goose Girl, there was a huge celebration that took place, and Enna stayed in the castle for a long time, but felt like she had no purpose there other than being Ani's friend. Sadly, her mother had fallen ill, so she headed back to her home in the forest to take care of her and her older brother, Leifer. Enna's mother died within that time span, leaving her at home to take care of Leifer, who can hardly take care of himself despite him being older. And the story begins sometime after Enna's mom's death. Enna is just at home doing chores while Leifer is out with Finn, one of the forest boys from the first book, and some other boy. Leifer comes home acting a little strange, and throughout a series of events, Enna notices Leifer is constantly looking at some kind of vellum with writing on it. For those of you who don't know, before paper and parchment and stuff existed, people would write things on vellum, or sheepskin. While yes, you could say papyrus would work as well, but they didn't have that in this world, and maybe the setting was a long time ago. Speaking of the time the vellum was written, the book actually starts with a little prologue about a woman who is supposedly on fire. She buries this vellum inside a clay pot under the roots of a young tree before she burns to death. Anyways, back to Leifer and Enna. Leifer continues to act more weird, and even starts to badmouth the royalty of Bayern and burns Enna in anger, thus leading Enna to find out that Leifer has learned fire-speaking from instructions that were written on the vellum. Now, fire-speaking is not firebending. Here's how fire-speaking works. Basically, every living thing ever gives off heat, and you can pull that heat off of the living things into yourself and expel it as fire. There's no mention of hand motions or things like that, so I suspect it would be similar to making fire just randomly appear with your mind, which would actually make sense considering how this world works and how the fire is immediately dissipated. Now, Enna wants to learn fire-speaking. She hopes to understand Leifer's condition so that she may be able to help him. So she goes to the only other person who might be able to help her, Ani. Ani is actually referred to as Isi throughout this book and onward, because that's the name she went by when she was disguised, and everyone calls her that, including her husband. I'll probably still call her Ani for consistency purposes, but just letting you know in case you get confused. Anyway, so Enna and Ani meet up, where Ani tells Enna that while she has mastered wind speech, the wind won't stop howling. It's like being in a crowded room with every voice talking at once, except daily. I don't think I could live my life like that. Anyways, Ani doesn't really know how to help Leifer since she really doesn't know a whole lot about fire, but she does say she'll look into it. Now, currently in the land of Bayern, there's a lot of tension going on since they're at war with a land to the south called Tira. Tira has already taken several Bayern villages and cities, and they keep marching north. So many of the forest boys that Enna knows, including Finn, have been working hard to become well-trained soldiers so that they may defend their land. Enna ends up going home to find Leifer and finds out that he regrets burning Enna and has decided to join Bayern's army. So now we get to the battle section. Ani and Enna are there because it's custom for Bayern women to be near the battles, but not too close. Anyways, battle breaks out and Leifer is burning everyone left and right. Everything seems to be going well for Bayern. Until the king is killed! Jarek, being the prince, is now the king, which makes Ani the queen. Now they have even more stress to worry about. Enna also finds out that Leifer died in the battle as well, except he himself was a charred corpse. Thanks to some strategy, Enna and Ani drove many soldiers away from Leifer while he was burning people in order to make the Tiran soldiers believe she was doing it. No one knew it was Leifer except Talon, who is now captain of the army, and everyone else. Enna actually finds the vellum that Leifer read and learns how to wield fire. She hardly uses it though, thinking that if she uses too much, she might become a charred corpse like her brother. Anyways, now with all the added stress of Ani and Jarek's new responsibilities, Enna tries to find a way to be useful by suggesting the idea of a war augury. An augury is an omen, something used to predict the future. Usually auguries are meant to raise spirits, but in this case, Jarek wanted to use the augury to predict what may happen in the course of the war. And since it was going to be very public among the soldiers, there's a 50-50 chance the soldiers won't have their spirits raised. So here's how the augury works. 2 men spar to the death, one representing Bayern and one representing Tira. Talon chose a volunteer out of the Tiran prisoners to represent Tira, and the man to represent Bayern is Finn. Quiet, gentle Finn. The augury commences and Finn is losing. Enna, not being able to stand the idea of losing Finn, uses her fire speaking to send heat into the sword of the Tiran. Now this sword didn't catch fire. It'd be more like if you were holding a metal crowbar and it suddenly started heating up. That's how it works. Anyways, this causes Finn to regain himself and win the augury. The augury has spoken, and Enna believes that Bayern will win with her help, so she starts sneaking out and burning stuff in Tiran camps, mostly small stuff like tents and such. She does burn one man in self-defense, but she promised herself that she would never burn another person alive. Anyways, it isn't long before someone notices, so she gets caught by one of her friends, Reizo, who was in the first book, but didn't really play that big of a part, so I didn't talk about him during the first video. Reizo decides to help Enna sneak into Tiran camps so he can get numbers to report back to Talon, since he's a scout, and so Enna can burn. Finn eventually joins them in their little raids, and they are doing damage. However, Reizo and Finn ask her to take a break since they're now scared of her. It isn't until the Tiran decide to make effigies and a gallows that things start heating up. Enna wants to burn the gallows and constantly feels the pressure to burn everything. Ani eventually asks Enna what's wrong with her, as the wind has been telling her that Enna is on fire, not metaphorically. Enna keeps trying to avoid the topic, but since Ani won't stop pressing, Enna snaps and almost burns Ani. Thankfully, Ani's wind speaking blew away the heat before it became flame. Feeling ashamed, she runs away, but she runs to the gallows to burn them. And while she does burn them, there are others waiting. The gallows were a trap to lure Enna. They capture her and drug her so that she won't use her fire powers. While being held prisoner, she is under the charge of a Tiran captain, Zelda. He spends quite a lot of time with Enna and is desperate to learn how to wield fire, hoping to gain a promotion. Enna, of course, refuses him every single time since that would be bad. And since she is constantly being drugged, she can't give him a demonstration. Well, eventually Finn and Reizo are captured and are used as leverage. Basically, if there is any loose fire at all in the camp, the soldiers have orders to kill one of them. That way Enna can demonstrate her powers without burning everyone else. Well, Enna did demonstrate her power a few times, and over the course of that time, she starts to develop feelings for Zelda. But, Masters, why didn't she go save Reizo and Finn? Well, here's why. First of all, she didn't know where they were being kept. Second of all, Zelda has been persuading her, flattering her, telling her she is great, and also telling her that Reizo and Finn were sent as assassins to kill her. The sad thing? She believed him. Starting to sound tragic, right? Well, it isn't until Ani herself enters the camp with a bunch of wine. Since Ani is foreign and could easily pass as Tiran, she was able to get into the camp easily. And Zelda was away at this time, commanding an army to take over one of the other Bayern towns. Ani cryptically tells Enna that Zelda, like her old enemy Celia, has the gift of people-speaking. That is how he was able to persuade Enna to fall in love with him. Ani also cryptically tells Enna through a story to the guards that they can't save her, since they have to focus their energy on the Tiran army marching toward the capital. But Ani believes that she can save herself and her friends. Well, thanks to Ani's wine, Enna was able to sneak out and save Finn and Reizo. They escape and make their way to the capital, but come across a raging battle. Finn and Reizo stand guard next to her while Enna burns the people. However, like Leifer, she herself is starting to burn up and is being consumed from the heat within her. Thankfully, Ani was there to save her life and cool her off with her wind speech. Once the battle is over, Ani tells Enna that she is taking her to the southern kingdom Yasid, where there are rumored to be fire worshippers there that might be able to help her. But since there might be some remnants of the enemy roaming about the land on the way there, they decide only to go by themselves, and with their gifts, they'll be able to handle themselves. However, they run into Zelda and many Tiran on their way there. Sealif again tries to convince Enna to come back to him, but Enna, now knowing Sealif for what he truly is, openly resists him. Sealif nearly kills Enna, but Finn, who had been following them the entire time, is there to save the day. A fight breaks out, and Sealif is eventually killed by one of his own men, 3 daggers to the back. The Tiran soldiers just leave after that. I'm serious, they just pick up Sealif's body and leave. Well, now they make it to Yasid, where they learn from a man named Fahil that Enna is indeed dying to the fire within her. They all learn that the fire worshippers know not only the language of fire, but also the language of water. Since they know both languages that are opposite each other, they form a balance. They don't consume the full human. Since Enna only knows fire, it's consuming her. During this time, they also find out that Ani is currently pregnant, and Enna suspects that Ani's actually dying from her only knowing wind speech. It's consuming her as well. Enna, knowing now that 2 lives are at stake, she comes up with a way to save Ani. Wind and fire have a similar balance to fire and water. Heat can scatter the wind, while wind can blow out the fire. Ani believes that this could also save Enna as well, so Ani teaches Enna wind speech, while Enna teaches Ani fire speech. Well, it works! Enna is no longer being consumed by fire, and Ani can silence the wind if she pleases. And then they make their way home, where Ani gives birth to a son named Tuscan, after her father, who was killed many years ago. That's where the book ends. Now, let's get to some of my favorite parts, the analysis. The story shows how war can affect people in many different ways. Enna wanted to make a difference and save her home. Finn wanted to prove himself to Enna as he was in love with her, so he joined the army to fight. Leifer realized that the real enemy was not his sister, but Tira. There are many other reasons people go to war, but those are some of the major ones that I caught. Plus, the book also shows the poor people who are held captive by the Tiran in their own city. They have to do work for the Tiran as slaves and are marked by a blue sash. The story doesn't go into full detail of what happened to them, but I think it's a good thing it didn't. It probably wasn't too pretty. I'm sure you're waiting for me to go over this topic after hearing about Enna's feelings for Sealif. Yes, I do believe it was Stockholm Syndrome. Enna felt the effects of it firsthand, and it's a scary thing. In the later books, she doesn't even want to talk about Sealif. He manipulated her to kill and would always find a reason to tell her that it was okay to kill. It's almost like he was feeding her fire. Honestly, when I first read this, I stopped reading right here, because it felt like Enna was going to join the bad guys and never go back and see Bayern again. But thankfully I picked it up again to see what was going to happen next, and I was pleased that Enna was able to get over it. Even during the second encounter with Sealif, she didn't burn him where he stood. She still wanted to listen to him. She wanted to come with him. It's a really scary thing what a few pretty words, lies, and flattery can do to a person. It's traumatizing. Ah yes, the big theme here that I thought was most important, so I saved it for last. Forgiveness. When Leifer burned Enna, she was able to forgive him, since he had returned to her humbled and didn't want her to hate him. Which is probably why he joined the army. He wanted to prove to Enna that he cared about what she cared about, their homeland. Now, when Enna tried to burn Ani, it was different. Ani had trust issues due to the events of the first book. She had done her best to recover after those events, but it still hurt her. She even called for her guards shortly after Enna had tried to burn her. It took Ani a while to forgive Enna, but she was able to do it. Heck, she snuck into an enemy camp to help her best friend in the whole world. That is real friendship right there. Overall, this book is good. I really enjoyed reading it again, and I felt it was a lot deeper than the book before it. I'd give this book the same age recommendation as the other one, 12 and up. It's well written, it shows just enough of what war can do to someone without showing a lot of graphic detail, and it has a satisfying ending that makes us all happy. Although I would strongly recommend reading The Goose Girl first so that you know the world and many of the characters. Well, that was Enna Burning. I hope you get to enjoy this as much as I did. Now, as I said, I do recommend you read the first book before you read this one. And while this book does not end on a cliffhanger, it did get a sequel. In our next adventure, we will be journeying to the land of Tira, where a peace treaty has finally been made, and one forest boy who was chosen to join an escort guard to the ambassador of Bayern, Who knows what kind of adventures he will have in this thrilling sequel? I hope you join me next week where we will look at River Secrets, starring Reizo, Enna's friend. Happy reading, everyone!